Welcome to the show. Friday, IB Nation Sports Talk up and rolling. He's Vince D'Addario. I'm Sean Steyers. Glad you're with us for the show today. Hit that like button as we get started. I was sitting here looking at the chat before we were getting going. I would have thought there were like 400 people sitting in here. As much action was going on in the chat.
I like it.
Crazy Friday, huh, Vince? It's like it's one of those days where we had one show that we thought we were going to do.
Correct.
Then within a span of about 45 minutes, 18 new nuggets of information came rolling our way.
I had no idea there was a press conference today. Not that I would have been able to attend.
It was not a press conference.
It was like a lunch?
No, well, you know how in the past, like every year, all the different local outlets, like Irish Illustrated and Blue and Gold, obviously Irish Breakdown, Irish Sports, like all the South Bend Tribune, the main writer from each of those outlets gets a one-on-one with Marcus Freeman.
Right.
Well, they scrapped the one-on-ones and they turned it into a closed door. All those same people got to come talk with Marcus Freeman, but at the same time.
I see.
It wasn't a press conference per se, but it was a kind of a closed door. Everyone from the outlets who would have got to do the one-on-one in the past everyone was there. Gotcha. I guess a lot of, obviously a lot of the same questions typically got asked, in the past. They're like, well, why answer them 18 different times? So we can just bring everyone into the room.
So were you present?
No, our illustrious leader was present.
All right. Because I know there was some
other he's the one who's got the one-on-one.
There were some other outlets that had more than one person. That's why I was curious.
I don't know. I have no idea who was there.
Okay, fair enough. But we got all the information. It doesn't matter whether you're there or not. It's,
right.
We got the info. And the info has changed our show dramatically from what we had planned. That's for sure.
Yes, but in a good way and in a crazy way. And we, Tyler Buchner is back. And, the former Notre Dame quarterback turned Alabama quarterback turned Notre Dame walk-on lacrosse player is now also a Notre Dame walk-on football player. He is back with the football team as a wide receiver. Before we get into this conversation, some of our regulars giving Vince a hard time here. Salty says Buchner is triple optioning Vince. Whatever Vince does, he's wrong. Then Salty said Buchner is running his entire life with the goal of proving Vince wrong. Now, this is leading to USMA 87 says, did Vince say there's no way Buchner plays football for Notre Dame again? I think he did. If so, he's 2 for 2 on absolutely wrong predictions. I don't remember. I can't say for sure. I know that the subject of Buchner has come up in the past.
I could have said it. There's definitely a chance that I could have said it, but I don't think that I did, though, because I would think of all the people that they would allow to come back, he would have been one of them. And I knew that when he left. And so I don't know that I would have been that absolute. But if I did, I would own it. That's fine. I should have said absolutely no way he comes back and plays quarterback for Notre Dame. Then I would have been right.
Yes, you would.
You would. And let's be honest here, folks. There's no guarantee he's actually going to play for Notre Dame.
He's on the football team. He's a walk-on now, like a lot of other walk-ons, right?
And that's a different story when you're playing a wide receiver at Notre Dame, where we have discussed ad nauseum how if they're only going to have 6 wide receivers, somebody's going to be on the outs. And so that's going to be a tough rotation to break into. So I'm not convinced yet, without seeing him ever play wide receiver, that he's going to be able to break into that rotation. Who are you replacing? I guess that's the question. Which one of those guys are you replacing for Tyler Buchner?
I'm not expecting him to get playing time.
Me neither.
Not
at this point. Not unless I see something, pretty drastic.
Have you seen any of the video of him from high school when he played wide receiver as a freshman?
I saw that there was some freshman video of him floating around. But
I saw some, it was like 4 or 5 plays. So I don't know if those were the biggest 4 or 5 plays or what the game situations were, but had pretty solid hands, had pretty good moves, and obviously once he had the ball in his hand, he pulled away from some high school defensive backs with the kind of wheels he's got.
And he played against some pretty crappy competition when he was a freshman,
private
through junior
school league and stuff like that.
Yeah. Then that's why he went to, if everybody remembers, let's break it down, right? He went to California to up the ante of the people he was playing against. And then, of course, COVID hit and he never had a chance to play against, the better competition. And so all the haters out there were like, well, he never played against anybody. So, I mean, if you're going to say that as a quarterback, we have to say that as being a wide receiver. So I guess I'm not surprised he was pulling away from people. He's fast.
Right.
No doubt about that.
Just to kind of get this out of the way, I'll address Salties here in a minute. Tyler Buchner was a walk-on the lacrosse team, and he's also a walk-on the football team. Jordan Faison last year was a scholarship lacrosse player who was a walk-on the football team. And so when he played his first snap for the football team had to give him a full scholarship, and he was no longer on lacrosse scholarship. And again, that's because of the NCAA rule, where you've got an 85 scholarship limit on an FBS football team, and it is to keep teams from circumventing the 85-man limit by using a player who's on a scholarship with another team on the same campus. Now, the question Salty is asking, if a walk-on plays in lacrosse, why don't they also get a scholarship? Is that only for football? It's because those are partial scholarships. So no one on the lacrosse, well, there might be like one guy. I don't know exactly how they've got the, lacrosse scholarships dispersed, but baseball is the same thing. Those guys are all on partial scholarships over there. And that's the difference. And have you seen the lacrosse roster? By the way, I can't believe how many guys are on a lacrosse roster for a few guys that actually play.
Right.
You can play walk-ons in lacrosse more because, one, you're not giving up as much because everyone's on a partial scholarship. And there's not, again, football is the moneymaker, and they're trying to prevent programs from getting around the 85-man scholarship limit, by doing that, by using a scholarship player on a different roster. And that's why you have to give them a football scholarship as soon as they play a snap of football.
Because they don't want you to bring in guys on scholarship at other sports and then allow them to play football. That's really what it comes down to. And so it's a football specific rule, so that you can't do that. So you can't have like 95 scholarship athletes playing football. You
don't have the same kind of roster limit, obviously, with lacrosse, especially since there's all these partial scholarships.
Clearly. So, and and same thing goes for baseball, right? There's like 17 scholarships or something to go around, and there's like 35 guys on the roster. I mean, a baseball roster is has anybody ever looked into a dugout of a home game of like an ACC team? There's nowhere to sit down. There's so many guys in there. I mean, and that's when you've got 9 guys on the field. So there's a lot of players out there because they're all getting partials.
Well, and they're talking about with this revenue sharing thing that baseball rosters, as an example, with those partial scholarships, that you might see a growth in roster spots because of the revenue share thing, because you'll be able to afford more guys theoretically.
That's true. And, we don't know what his NIL deal with Alabama was. I'm sure he got money to come down to Alabama. I think we can all safely assume that that's the case. And he's paying his own way. He said it in the letter that he put out, is that he's paying his own way to come back to Notre Dame. And he knew that his opportunity at Notre Dame at this point was going to be as a walk-on lacrosse player. And so he's paying his own way. He wanted to be here that bad that he's paying his own way. My guess is he got enough NIL money where that's not exactly hurting his pocketbook, right? And so, I don't even know how much eligibility he has left. I mean, obviously he has some.
I believe it's 2 football
seasons. 2 football? Okay.
He has left.
So, we've talked about how deep,
because he's played in 3 different football seasons now. Now, he played in 3 games, so he might actually have 3 left, 3 seasons. I saw it reported 2, but remember, it would have been 2022, the year he started against Ohio State. He only played in 3 games that year, so that theoretically could have been a redshirt year. He only played in 2 last year, so one of those has to count. One of those could have been a redshirt year, so that is
because the COVID year he was in high school,
right. And actually his season got canceled.
So he doesn't get the COVID 6th year is the point that I was making. And so one of those.
So he's played in 2. So he still has
3.
Yeah. So no, he's played in 2 seasons.
Oh, he's played in 2 full. Help me out. Come on.
He's played. Just hold up. Slow down a little bit. He's played in 3 seasons overall. And in 2 of those different seasons, he would have qualified for a red shirt, but you can't take a red shirt in both, is what I'm saying. So that means he's played in, from a red shirt standpoint, he's got 2 years that count against him, so he's got 2 years left.
Unless he backtracks and says, hey, one of those was an injury red shirt, and then he would have 3.
Well, he would have to appeal for that, though.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It could happen, though, because he played less than 4.
He could apply for that, because of the 2022 season at Notre Dame, where he missed all those games and then came back and was the gettable MVP. Right. And he got his degree in 3.5 years. This letter, man, for those who haven't seen the letter, I think most people have seen the letter. I'm gonna read a little bit of it.
Okay.
Just because. So here's how it starts off from Tyler Buchner. This is his letter to the Notre Dame faithful today in announcing his decision that he's coming back. I began my trip from Tuscaloosa to South Bend in a rented U-Haul filled with memories, packed tightly into cardboard boxes and duffel bags. A few days before, I was at the Rose Bowl, and the refrain of Dixieland Delight at Bryant-Denny Stadium still echoed in my ears. The open road stretched ahead as I headed northward, a ribbon of asphalt leading me back to Notre Dame and the snow-draped streets of South Bend. As I approached the familiar bend in the road, my heart quickened, a blend of anticipation and nostalgia swirling within. The towering presence of the Golden Dome loomed ahead, a beacon guiding me home. I mean, I feel like I'm listening to James Earl Jones from,
that's great.
Field of Dreams. It's just like visions dripping in my brain, listening to Tyler Buchner's words on the page there. Pulling into the Goog, I felt the cold and crisp air envelop me. Each breath a sharper reminder of what I had missed. I felt the weight of the past season lift as I left the truck and entered the building. Unlike the steps my body had instinctively taken for the last 2 years, I did not go to my left to the football facility. Instead, I turned right to the lacrosse offices. I asked for a lacrosse stick. I'll kind of cut off that. I'll read a little bit in a little bit.
I mean, it was very poetic. I mean, and very descriptive.
Very descriptive. Like I searched all over the place to find out what his degree is. He said he got his degree in 3.5 years. I feel like
creative writing
or English or like he's a very good writer.
Hey, actually, ChatGPT is an amazing thing. I'm not saying he used it, but I will say that it's very good.
You're accusing Tyler Buchner of AI is what you're doing.
I do work in a high school that
you're just flat out accusing this feel-good story, Tyler Buchner, of going out and plagiarizing.
It's not plagiarism, it's ChatGPT. It's original work. It's just not his. I don't know.
I'm plugged in. So like he could have plugged in, like Field of Dreams, think Field of Dreams. Here's what I'm coming from Alabama to Notre Dame.
I don't know. Look, in all seriousness, I don't know if you've ever played with ChatGPT before. It is amazing.
I've never had.
I have numerous colleagues that use it all the time for emails and letters and all that kind of stuff, and it's legit. But no, maybe he's a really good creative writer. There was a very, very descriptive. I could see what he was trying to get out there. That's for sure. It was a well-written letter.
Hell of a writer. I had been lured to Alabama by opportunities that glistened like gold in the southern sun. Listen to that.
I mean, come on.
When I transferred, it was with a heavy heart and my mind clouded by uncertainty. There were whispers in my ear, persuasive voices, and the glittering prospect of opportunity. As a 20-year-old, the ache of leaving behind the Fighting Irish was overshadowed by the pull of the transfer portal and the promise of playing one season for Coach Saban as the next logical step towards playing in the NFL. But I had forgotten why I chose Notre Dame in the first place, and it took a season away to realize what I had and why I loved Notre Dame. Where do you think this goes, Vince. Like we've got people here already speculating. Like Joe is saying, Leonard gets hurt. Wouldn't be shocked if Buchner is QB1. So we're gonna go from walk-on receiver now to throwing Tyler Buchner out there at QB1. He's gonna leapfrog over everybody.
Not a chance. There is as Patrick Tolan says, they're a little bit further down. 0.0% chance Buchner is ever QB1.
Yeah,
that ship has sailed, folks. Look, I'm a huge Buchner fan when he was at Notre Dame and as a quarterback and all of that. He had some really bad luck when it comes to injuries, and he never really was able to get his feet wet. Now, he made a lot of rookie mistakes, throwing some interceptions, obviously, but I never say never. You're right,
Vince,
but
don't say
never. I'm putting
never.
myself in the absolute corner again.
Don't say never.
The difference is there are very talented quarterbacks on the roster right now who have been playing quarterback.
Yes. The depth chart is in a much different place right now than when Tyler Buchner left, even just a year ago. Like, think about it, because it was Sam Hartman, Tyler Buchner, Steve Angeli, and Kenny Minchie.
Yes.
Yeah. Minchie was there in the spring last year, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was those four guys. And now, fast forward a year later, you obviously have Hartman, Angeli, Minchie, CJ Carr. Much different place the roster is in right now.
4 injuries, and he gets to play. So I guess I can't say 0.0%. If 4 quarterbacks go down, then Tyler Buchner will get a shot. Here's the thing, folks. He's not even going to be practicing as a varsity quarterback. He's a walk-on wide receiver. That you can't just this isn't high school, right? This isn't the Northern Indiana Conference where you can just move a wide receiver over to quarterback and snap your fingers and you're good to go. Like, this is high-level college football, and if you're practicing at one position, you can't just throw somebody into a quarterback position the week of and be like, go. Like, that's not going to happen. That is not how football works. I'm sorry. And
not with the stakes of
no.
The stakes are very high, as we've talked about this season for Notre Dame and for Marcus Freeman.
Right.
As we said earlier in this week, like, his career at Notre Dame is not, I want to emphasize, not on the line with any, with this season. But at the same time, because of the schedule they have, because of the roster that they have and everything else, they should be feeling like a college football playoff team coming into the season.
100%.
And you're not just going to take a guy who left and is coming back. Like, they had a conversation. Marcus Freeman and Tyler Buchner had a conversation. Tyler Buchner asked to come back to the team. Marcus Freeman said that he went to some of the leaders on the team and they had a discussion. They decided he could come back, but it was going to be as a walk-on wide receiver. It's not as a quarterback. That's why he's coming back, because, like, great athlete, whole thing. But he's a walk-on wide receiver. And for anyone expecting that Tyler Buchner is going to make some kind of push and some kind of dent on the quarterback depth chart this season, that's pure fantasy.
Yes, thank you.
Point. That's all that is.
I know I get a hard time for speaking in absolutes, and I totally understand that. I get it. But, Jack Kaiser played quarterback in high school. So are we saying if there's a bunch of injuries, they're just going to move the middle linebacker over to quarterback? That's a similar scenario, in my opinion, to what people are saying about Tyler Buchner moving to quarterback and playing. I'm sorry that he's playing a completely different position, and he's not exactly working his arm out, and he's not, working on timing with the wide receiver. He's working on being a wide receiver. He's got enough of an uphill climb right now to play as a wide receiver with the room that he's entering. So, hey, it's a feel-good story. It's fantastic. He's a Notre Dame man. He's coming back after being gone for a semester. All the good things. That's awesome. But let's be realistic as to what it actually means to the Notre Dame football team in 2024.
Right.
That's all we're saying.
Because remember, when they went out and got Sam Hartman last year, the idea was Sam Hartman was going to be the quarterback for a year, but Tyler Buchner was going to stay here, and Tyler Buchner was supposed to be QB1 coming into this year. That's what last year was supposed to be about, but Tyler Buchner made a decision. I don't think anybody begrudges him for it. He made a decision. As he said, he had the NFL in his in his eyes, and he followed Tommy Rees to Alabama, and he took that chance. It didn't work out, and he goes into that in more in his letter that he wrote, but that didn't work out. And so then he came back. He wanted to come back to Notre Dame. He paid his way, played on the lacrosse team, hadn't picked up a lacrosse stick since high school, but obviously was part of the lacrosse team, got to play in the national
freshman year, I think they said, like 9th grade.
But Marcus Freeman didn't have to let him back, because he left the team in a bad situation last year, because he should have been QB2 and one snap away from potentially going out there and playing. And who knows, maybe he would have gotten some reps over the course of last season, even with Sam Hartman. I mean, we know that Steve Angeli got reps in blowout situations, but maybe Buchner might have had meaningful reps because of, just like his freshman year, the different skill set that he offered with his legs compared to Sam Hartman. Maybe they found ways to get him on the field and continue to develop him as they got him ready for this season. So the quarterback picture is completely different right now, but part of the reason it is completely different is because Tyler Buchner left the program to go to Alabama last year. So, they don't owe him anything by coming back this year. And again, to expect that somehow he's going to make a dent on the quarterback depth chart.
Oh my gosh.
There's a reason that they said you can come back, but it says a walk-on wide receiver. This is the only way. Joshua says Notre Dame plays both Army and Navy. Imagine the scout quarterback he might be like that. That would make sense to me.
That doesn't even make sense to me, because he's never been an option quarterback. They literally
recruited he's still a great athlete.
But they recruited an option quarterback to come in and be a walk-on. Fisher's brother. He's literally going to be a freshman this year. Yeah. He is an option quarterback. He's been playing the option as a quarterback since 6th grade. That's the guy who's going to be running the option as the quarterback during prep.
Well, so, but they also didn't know they were going to have Tyler Buchner on the roster.
I get it. But a
walk-on's a walk-on, Vince. And if they think that,
I get that, but you can't learn the option overnight. That's not something that you just hold up a card and be like, run the option. It takes time, and that's not something he's ever done. So I don't see that even being the case. That's me personally.
Right. But at the same time, Mishawaka's flex bone option is still different than either Army or Navy's option.
It's closer to Navy.
There's similarities.
Navy is switching up what they're doing for sure. I would rather have Tyler Buchner as a wing or something like that. I think he'd be more effective doing that as a scout team quarterback, or as a scout team player, as opposed to running the offense.
Yeah, Navy's like the wings. Navy calls them halfbacks, but
right.
Yeah, but put him on the he could definitely simulate the athleticism that they have out there.
Right,
but we'd have to look at the at the opposing teams' quarterbacks as we go along. If there's a running athletic quarterback, I think obviously Tyler Buchner could simulate that very well. But I think the question, not this year, but even next year. Look at Jordan Faison was a walk-on, right? Mm-hmm. And he ascended. Sure. He found himself with a scholarship, and he's in a much different place right now. The expectations are much different for Jordan Faison right now than they were last year. Do you think that because so many of these guys, they brought in these transfers, Collins, Mitchell, Harrison, these are all going to be one and done guys. Mm-hmm. Could Tyler Buchner a year from now turn into something? Maybe. Sure. Again, it's possible. High school, but he showed hands from what I saw on, the handful of plays that I saw. And again, he's got good speed, and he obviously has size and athleticism. Do you think it could turn into something maybe next year even?
I would say at earliest in 25, at the absolute earliest, being a contributor. It's definitely possible. I need to see him as a wide receiver at the age of 20, as opposed to wide receiver at the age of 14. There's a big difference, right? And so I need to see what he looks like in fall camp. I need to see him running around. I need to see him as a wide receiver. There's still a lot of unknown, in my opinion, about what Tyler Buchner is going to be able to do as a wide receiver. Look, if here's the other thing. Marcus Freeman is a very intelligent coach. If he thought that Tyler Buchner could help him at wide receiver in a game in 2024, then Tyler Buchner would be a scholarship football player. He wouldn't be a walk-on, in my opinion. So,
well, they're up against the scholarship limit though right now too. So that
I get that.
Who knows? That could have something to do with it as well.
I just don't think Marcus Freeman's going into this thinking he's got a shot at being in the rotation. I don't see that being realistic.
Right. I think right now this is more, okay, you can be on the team. Here's the role it's going to be.
It's an experiment. This is an experiment that has no way of being a lose for Marcus Freeman because he's not offering him a scholarship. He's saying that you can go be a wide receiver as a walk-on. Like, he's Wapu Nation now. Like, there is no lose-lose here for Marcus Freeman. The only thing it can do is benefit in the future, and then maybe he is a contributor down the line. So Marcus Freeman made sure it was okay with the team. The team said it was cool. Here comes Tyler Buchner as a walk-on wide receiver. It's an experiment. Let's see what happens, right? It's a long shot experiment.
Andre got in late, and actually we probably got at least twice the crowd as we did at the beginning when we were talking about this. Tyler Buchner was not on a lacrosse scholarship this year. He was a walk-on the lacrosse team. Jordan Faison, Andre is asking if he plays in any capacity, doesn't he count for a scholarship? Jordan Faison was on a lacrosse scholarship last year. That's why when he played football, they had to give him a football scholarship to keep the football team from circumventing the 85-man scholarship limit. Since Tyler Buchner was not on a lacrosse scholarship, he came back, he paid his own way at Notre Dame. He was a walk-on there. He's a walk-on here. Walk-ons can play, and you don't have to give them a scholarship. So it's a different situation because Faison was on a lacrosse scholarship when he got here. Tyler Buchner is not on a lacrosse scholarship. So you don't have to give Tyler Buchner a scholarship for that reason.
Right. Yep. Absolutely correct. Look, this is still a good story. I'm still excited about having Tyler Buchner be a part of the program again.
No, you're not. You just want to crud all over this, Vince.
I want to crud all over the fans that are crazy. And that's not anybody that's an IB fan. It's the people out there that are like...
Every fan's a little bit crazy.
Like, right? Come on. And I realize it comes from
Come on, it's Friday, Vince. Get in a good mood.
It's my last day of school, too. I'm
old man in the sea. I'm looking at the old man in the sea.
Man, but come on, let's be realistic about the situation, man. Like, it's great that he's back, but let's have some reality to our thinking. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I am a little bit. Well, I guess I was about to say I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. I mean, everyone wants to jump to immediate conclusions on what's going to happen here and everything else. Look, you're getting a really good athlete and a good kid. Good young man, I guess I should say. He is in his 20s now, but you're getting a good young man, great work ethic, and the whole thing coming back into the program. That's nothing but a good thing.
Yeah.
He's got his degree. He's going to be working on a graduate degree and the whole thing. It's nothing but a good thing that he's coming back. Again, maybe it works out next year or late in the season if something happens, knock on wood. Hopefully there's not injuries and stuff like that. You never know. But again, he has a great maybe he turns into a kick returner or a punt returner.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Great.
Because again, I mean, the guy's obviously
he's speed. Athletic. He's athletic as all hell.
He's got speed to burn.
There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And he's an athlete. He's athletic. He's all those things. And he appears to be a good kid as well. So again, if you're Marcus Freeman, there's no losing here. It's an experiment that is only a win if you're Marcus Freeman. So that's why he did it. And as long as the team is okay with it, awesome.
Yep. Couple super chats from Jacob. Thank you very much. Jacob, he says, look out for the backwards pass to Tyler Buchner. Well, he would have to get on the field before he could get a backwards pass.
But and everybody's saying, he's going to throw a reverse pass and all that. That would be the most obvious play call on the planet.
You don't think the guys in the other press box know that he was the quarterback before?
Right. They're like, oh, hey, look, number 6 is on the field. He used to be the starting quarterback. He might throw the ball. I mean, come on. I don't see. Maybe it happens. That would be cool. Everybody be excited. But if they can pull that off against a team, that team is very ill prepared to play against Notre Dame.
Correct. TCAF, can he kick? That,
I mean,
could be a key question.
We'll see.
TCAF.
He could be a holder. I bet you he can hold. Because I guarantee you, at this point, usually the punter is the holder.
He would actually be a good holder.
Right. As I'm saying.
He's got good hands.
Usually
a good athlete, and like maybe that,
So back in the day, it used to be the backup quarterback was always the holder. Well, now the backup quarterback actually has stuff to do at practice. And so it's usually the punter who is the holder because it's just all the specialists hanging out together. And the punter is now the holder. My guess is James Rendell has never held before since he's never played American football before. And so Tyler Buchner could very well be the holder because he's probably not going to have as much to do at practice, and he can go over with the specialists and be a holder. That could be a great spot for him.
Yeah.
I could see that being the case.
Joe says over under how many Buchner passes complete to Jordan Faison? Over under 1.5.
Under.
For this year, I'm going under.
Way under.
Yeah.
Like probably 0. And if it is
drawing up the trick plays,
if it is 1, then like I said, that defense is super ill prepared to play against Notre Dame. So we'll say that there's one team out there that might be super ill prepared, and then they complete 1. So I'm still taking the under because he said it at 1.5.
Anything else from that letter, that long and very descriptive letter that he wrote that you think is ChatGPT?
Wow. I said it could be, but the part that I found very interesting. Go back
and listen to the.
You're going to listen back. Could you play it back for me, court reporter? Play it back for me. I know what I said. You don't have to have it read back to me. Huh? A few good men there for you.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I'm glad.
I was ready for. I thought you were going to go to "You Can't Handle the Truth" coming back.
Oh God, what were we even talking about?
ChatGPT.
Oh yeah, the letter. So the thing that stuck out to me is it was a not very veiled attempt to basically blame Tommy Rees for the fact that he left to go to Alabama.
Did kind of read some of that into there.
I mean,
yeah, he's he was promised.
Whispers in my ear, promises were made, all of these different things.
Yep.
And look, Tommy Rees was the guy that recruited
I started one game and Coach Saban benched me in the middle of the game, and I never got another.
I mean, and he made sure he said benched me on ESPN. Like he was bitter. He's bitter about that. And I don't blame him. You're allowed to be bitter about that, but he was also open about how it affected his mental, abilities and all of that stuff. But I just thought it was interesting that he's like basically said Tommy Rees made me all these promises, and that's why I left. I thought that was interesting for sure.
Yeah, I thought so as well. As I was leaving Alabama, I had scholarship opportunities to play quarterback elsewhere, even though I knew I was potentially giving up on my football dreams. I turned them down and told my parents I would pay my way through school because I only wanted to be at Notre Dame. Fast forward toward the end now, as I stand on the threshold of another season, my heart swells with a fervent desire to help Notre Dame achieve the glory we all dream of.
A fervent desire.
Grantland Rice,
ChatGPT.
A national championship in football. I'm driven by the determination to give my all, to push beyond my limits and be part of something greater than myself. The journey back to Notre Dame has been one of reflection and redemption. It has taught me that home is not just a place, but a feeling of belonging, of being part of a family that stands by you no matter where the road leads. I just can't believe you're going to crap all over that, Vince.
I enjoyed reading it. I enjoyed reading it. It's just, I'm very cynical because I read a lot of what kids put out these days.
I'm sure
stuff is not well.
You have a much better, like
I just
that whole AI stuff has to be rampant in high school right now.
It very much
like
is.
When a kid goes from a D, writer to again, like all of a sudden he's Grantland Rice now.
Exactly. And look, I don't know Tyler Buchner. I'm obviously having a good time with this. And maybe he is the poetic writer that he put out, and that would be great if he was. If this is all legit, he has a future in writing novels, right? Because it was very well written, very, very well written. I know adults that can't write that well, for sure.
No, that's very true. And I like where did it go? DK. I think Jay Peterman from Seinfeld
That's
wrote
funny.
that. The descriptions.
That's funny.
The urban sombrero.
It's funny. Somebody says, he goes to Notre Dame for God's sakes. Yeah, I get it. That doesn't make you a good writer. Okay. I say what you want. The youth of today, they don't write well overall. They don't, because it's not taught that way anymore. That's just a fact. So,
ladies and gentlemen, let's bring out Tyler Buchner right now. Okay. No.
Hey, Tyler. How long did it take you to put that letter together, sir?
Right.
I want to know. I want to know how it went.
I thought it was very well done.
It was.
I'm just going to lean into that. I thought it was very well done, and I don't think there's any way he was using any kind of AI. So
this is gonna come back to haunt me.
I understand with Tyler Buchner,
and that's fine
all the way.
It's cool.
But there was one of the guys on the beat last year who used some kind. I don't know if it was Chat GPT or what exactly. He was some kind of AI, and I think it was maybe before the Sun Bowl. Like he entered some stuff and asked it to write in the style of Grantland Rice, and it was just.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Folks, if you've never tried it, you should use it and see how well it does for you, and then come back and talk to me.
Right. Boy, Andre's getting a little bit testy. Everyone's getting. I know.
That's okay.
But I mean, it has been quite a journey that Tyler Buchner has made. He goes from Notre Dame Gator Bowl MVP at the end of December 2022, transfers to Alabama. At about a year ago at this time, maybe a little bit, more than a year ago at this time, September 16th, last season, makes his only start at Alabama, gets benched. Jalen Milroe takes the job January 1st of this year. He's on the sideline in the Rose Bowl with Alabama in their overtime loss to Michigan in the college football playoff. In the same month, he transfers back here to Notre Dame to play lacrosse. And just 4 days ago on Memorial Day, he wins a national championship with Notre Dame lacrosse. And now here he is back with the Notre Dame football team.
And look, writing aside, he put his heart and soul into that letter, and he was very open about mental health. He was very open about why he left, why he's coming back. And I thought I think that that's going to endear him to the fan base, especially the people that were like, he left, never bring him back. That whole, just the anger of people that enter the transfer portal, like that kind of thing. I think opening up like that and being, fragile, or however you want to say it, I think that's really good for him. And I think a lot of people are going to be on his side, rightfully so, because he put himself out there. And I think that's great. And whether he's a success on the football field or not, doesn't matter to me at all. He's going to get his degree. He's going to be at Notre Dame where he wants to be. And I think that part is the part that's important.
Yes. And this is the true part, DE. We will never be given an interview with Tyler Buchner. That's exactly right, because he is on the football team. The only opportunity we're going to have is at one of those post-practice media opportunities. And that's fine. Get some of his thoughts and see if he can wax as poetic as he did in this long, illustrious letter. I was impressed by the writing. Vince was obviously not impressed. I
was impressed by the writing. I just don't know who the author was. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
All right, Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
Why not? See what other trouble I can get into.
I just wanted to dig you out of a hole before, the hole.
It's all good.
Got much bigger.
I dug myself a massive hole, but you know what? I won't be on the show till next Wednesday, so it's okay. Plenty of time for me to get stuff thrown at me.
Yes. Fill in the blank. Marcus Freeman saying today that cornerback Benjamin Morrison, who had shoulder surgery this spring, will be a partial participant when fall training camp opens on July 31st and is not expected to be cleared to play until sometime close to the season opener, August 31st.
Worrisome. It's a little worrisome for me. I think, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, obviously, and so I don't know what the normal return to play is for this particular injury, but I figured he'd be good to go by the time they opened up camp. And the fact that they're already saying on May 31st that on July 31st, he's not going to be ready to go.
Yep.
That's worrisome to me. And so are they being overly cautious? That's possible because you don't want him to hurt it again doing something stupid, or something small in practice. And so they're going to hold him out of certain things and he'll participate in certain things. And so he'll be limited. But to me, it's still worrisome that he's not going to be full go.
Look, and this is, again, this comes from me, someone who's had both of my labrums done, and we don't know specifically that it was a labrum, but it sure, with the timeline that we're being given, because August 31st is around 5 months out from his surgery. And, again, just all the things that you have to go through. And like Michael was in here yesterday saying, well, he had his sling off, after the Blue Gold game and all this different stuff. Well, he was still wearing the sling afterwards. He might have just taken it off as, like it might have had a cramp and he had to kind of straighten it out a little bit and then put it back on. Look, shoulders are a very delicate thing because you're talking about ligaments and all this different stuff. And, that if they had to go in and put in some kind of pins to stabilize it, that takes time to heal. And that's just for a normal person doing normal things. It's a very slow process to get back to 100% once you do that surgery, and you go in there with those scopes and, all these different things. And then you're trying to get mobility back and you're also trying to play football. Just the process of reaching up to try to swat a ball away with a shoulder that has been surgically repaired. That's a big deal. Just something that seems minor. And that's not even taking into account, if your arm, your shoulder gets hyperextended when you go down to the ground, all those different things. So to me, like you said, I mean, we're still 2 months away. We're exactly 2 months from today until training camp starts. And they're saying he's going to be limited. And basically they hope that he's going to be a partial participant and they hope that he's ready to go by the time the season opens. That is not an overly good sign for me right now.
Completely agree. And again, maybe they're being cautiously cautious about the whole thing. And that would be not surprising if that was the case. But the fact that they're announcing it this early just worries me a little bit. It's worrisome for sure. We'll see how involved he is when we get, practice availability and stuff like that first week of August.
Right. Maybe it comes quickly, but they're obviously going to take it slowly. And that could be, that is the other side of it. You obviously want to be cautious and you don't want to rush him back too soon. But at the same time, so maybe they bring him along slowly, and by the middle of training camp, maybe he is ready to go. But it's just something we're not going to know until they get there. And this has been one of my chief concerns all along is how good that secondary is. Obviously rests on how healthy one of your
he's the best one, right? Or I mean,
right.
I guess you could make the argument between him and Xavier Watts, obviously. But those are two lockdown guys that you need to have there if you want to have an elite secondary. And him not being there, that's a major problem. So I hope obviously what matters is August 31st, not July 31st. We know this, right?
Sharp says it took him 6 months to recover from labrum. And that's right around, again, having both of them, that's like both times. That's around what it took. Like they can call it, well, he had a procedure. Well, anything is a procedure. And anytime you have to use a scope, that's not good right off the bat. So we'll see. We can keep our fingers crossed and be hopeful, but only time is going to tell, obviously. Fill in the blank. Devyn Ford. This is something else that Marcus Freeman addressed today. Devyn Ford moving back to running back after playing safety this spring is blank.
Expected. We know why he moved to safety. It wasn't because he's going to provide safety depth or anything like that. It was so that he could practice tackling as their number one special teams guy. And now that you're down a running back, you need him for numbers over there. And he's a running back by trade. He knows the offense. So that's an obvious, easy move. Having 5 running backs in camp is what you want.
Right.
Lots of carries to go around, that kind of a thing. And so he's more now beneficial to this team as a running back and providing depth there than he is as a safety, providing any kind of depth there. So he's still going to be your number one special teams guy, but he's also going to provide depth offensively at running back during camp.
Yeah. I mean, again, we talked about the Jabron Payne injury on yesterday's show, and it just makes sense that you would move Devyn. They moved Devyn Ford over there because he was the 6th running back, essentially, with, when Jabron Payne was healthy, and now he is at least the 5th running back. It is going to be interesting, like Joe Allen says, 3rd down man. That was Jabron Payne's role, that short yardage goal line type stuff. I still think one of the other 2 freshmen, Aeneas Williams or Kedron Young, are both like more physically built for that than Devyn Ford is.
Agreed.
Personally.
Devyn Ford is still going to have pretty much the same role that he probably had last year for the most part. I mean, he's going to be the #1 special teams guy. That's his role on this team. But you have to have another position, and so he's going to provide depth at running back. Look, a month of camp. Now, they'll say it's 2 weeks of camp and then 2 weeks of preparation for game 1 or what. It's a month of practice. Not only do you need arms to throw the ball, that's why you have 4 scholarship quarterbacks plus a walk-on, but you need guys to carry the football. And you don't want to be putting all of those miles on the guys that you're going to be counting on during the season.
Yeah.
And so moving him back makes all the sense in the world.
Yep. So Jordan Faison and Tyler Buchner are, of course, the latest high-profile 2-sport athletes at Notre Dame. I've been kicking around this week after the year that Jordan Faison had. How would you rank the top 5 2-sport Notre Dame athletes over the last 20 years?
So I could only come up with 6. Okay. So narrowing it down to 5 wasn't that hard since I could only come up with 6. So here's my list from bottom to top. Okay. And this is my, these are the guys I like, not necessarily the guys that were the most successful. Does that make sense? So number 5, Tyler Buchner. Number 4, Jordan Faison. Number 3, Torrey Hunter Jr. Number 2, Golden Tate. Number 1, Jeff Samardzija.
I forgot about Torrey Hunter. That's right. See, I left him off my list. Now, don't forget, this is 2-sport. It is not exclusive to football. So I'll go the other way.
Okay, good call. Didn't think about that.
I'll go the other way. Jeff Samardzija is who I have at the top of the list. And I mean, we got to live like up close and personal through the Jeff Samardzija.
Yes.
And it took over the world, basically.
Like he was like a rock star.
He was.
He was a rock star.
He and Zibikowski were literally rock stars.
Yep.
Is what they, and of course Samardzija had the hair. I
didn't even think about Zibikowski. He was a boxer.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't even think about him.
I said his name and I didn't even think about him. He might have sport guy. That's right.
He might have crossed my list. I mean, he probably would have been on my list if I would have thought about him, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Pat Connaughton. You left off your list.
Basketball and baseball, yes.
Don't forget, he was drafted in both sports, and the Orioles were really hopeful that he was going to give baseball a shot and try to be a pitcher in their organization. But instead, he's been in the NBA for the last several years. And then Golden Tate. Now, Tate was more football. He more or less dabbled in baseball,
right?
Because
he stole
played
some bases.
He didn't. Right. He didn't really excel, and I'm not, taking a shot at Golden Tate because he's a great athlete, but. I mean, he stole some bases and basically turned some singles into doubles and things like that because of just the blazing speed that he had. But then I've got Faison, and then Zibikowski. I would put him honorable mention. That's a good one. Who's the other one that you? Torrey Hunter.
Torrey Hunter.
Got him honorable mention.
The 6th person that I thought of originally when I had my 5 was Evan Sharpley, but he didn't make my top 5.
Evan. That's right. I mean, because he only got to play in a handful of football games.
Right.
Dropped some bombs from time to time on the baseball diamond,
and he played some minor league baseball, I believe. That's what he was doing post-graduate.
Yeah, he did. Yes, he did. That's right. Eric Most was another one that I think kind of gets forgotten. Do you remember him? He was the punter, and then he was a pitcher for the baseball team.
Oh, okay.
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good innings eater type guy.
The name is cloudy to me, but yeah.
He was like along the lines of, like a Greg Maddux, Kyle Hendricks type. Okay. Not a lot of velo, but he had a nice curveball and he could kind of pitch backwards a little bit, throw some junk at you, try to finish you with the fastball.
He could place the ball.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a goofy, fun guy.
Okay.
I'll say that. And I like Eric Moss maximized everything, I think. in his time at Notre Dame. Cole Kmet was another one, but again, didn't get to, only pitched a little bit, parts of a couple seasons with the baseball team. That's a pretty good list, though.
And Brian from New York says Drake Bowen belongs on that list before Buchner. And that, you can say that.
Have you looked at Drake Bowen's baseball stats? He did not play much this year.
Right.
He basically that highlight in the season, in that season opening series against Rice when he was pinch running. That's like his highlight of the entire season.
That was a pinch running. Like, he didn't even get on base himself. Like, he was a pinch runner. And look, we're not taking anything away from Drake Bowen. Playing two sports in college level is a very difficult thing to do. But sorry.
Great athlete. He hasn't done it yet. We just have to see him.
Thank you. Tyler Buchner won a national championship in lacrosse, and he was a contributor on the team. And so, and again, this was my personal list. I like Tyler Buchner as a person. I don't know Drake Bowen, to be perfectly honest. I like Tyler Buchner, so he's higher on my list.
So Daniel Stabler is asking what round Samardzija got drafted in. 5th round.
Right.
5th round is where he got drafted by the Cubs. Yep. We did bring up Tom Zibikowski. He was a Golden Gloves boxer. Remember, he did that big pay-per-view thing out in New York City, and a lot of the team went out there.
Yeah.
Pay-per-view.
Yep.
All that. So that was just a crazy time.
Man. It was.
Tommy Z.
Those guys were rock stars, man.
Oh, I know.
Yep. It was cool.
Tommy Z. Decaf says, baseball team was garbage. Lots of players transferring out. Well, there are at least a few players transferring out. They were not good. I will say that. Jesse and I talked about that last week. They
literally lost every road ACC game this year. That's tough to do.
They got swept 6. Their ACC, the only 9 wins in the ACC. It tied for their worst ACC record ever, and that was their first season in the ACC. So they've gone from College World Series 2 years ago to tying for the worst record they've ever had in ACC play. There's a lot of things that need to get better over there. It starts with the pitching, but they also got to figure some things out hitting. So you can.
Those are two pretty big things.
That's exactly right. Basically both things are broken right now. And in the meantime, Link Jarrett is down there at Florida State hosting a regional this weekend, and wouldn't be surprised if he's back in Omaha when it's all said and done here in a couple weeks. So we had a super chat come in early, and I don't know if Joshua's still around, but I was saving it. Thank you for the super chat, Joshua. And he says, when the softball coach retired, you talked about not wanting to follow a great. I think Coach Ivy will be the exception. How long do you think she will stay? Can you see a statue and championships? And I guess, do you want to start?
I think she will be the exception, but I think
she's already the exception.
Right. She was groomed to take that spot, though, too. It's not like she's stepping in to a situation that she was unfamiliar with. You know what I mean? And so I think that changes the dynamic a little bit. Look, there's no reason this team shouldn't be a Final Four team this year. And if everybody stays healthy and all that stuff happens, and if you're a Final Four team, you got a chance to win the national championship. And if you win the national championship, there's a chance you're going to get a statue on campus. So I absolutely could see a statue and championships in the future for Niele Ivey. No doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of the reason she was groomed for the position was because, it's not a coincidence. And Muffet McGraw has talked about this before, where the program, they won the national championship in 2001. They were a consistent tournament team for the next several years. But in the 2007-2008 season is where Niele Ivey came back as an assistant coach after her WNBA playing days were done. And at that point, within a year or two, is when Skylar Diggins was recruited, and she came in, and then they continued to stack recruits like that, elite recruit after elite recruit. It's not a coincidence that the program became elite again with all those Final Four runs and national championship game appearances. Niele Ivey played a huge part in that with her recruiting. And that's part of why, similar to Marcus Freeman, they were so confident in giving an inexperienced, a coach with no a career assistant coach with no head coaching experience. They were confident in promoting her to that position because of the elite recruiting that she had already showed she could do at the program. And when you look at how the program is performing right now, that's why, because of the elite recruiting. So, I mean, I think she's going to be here for a long time in terms of statues and championships. I think that a championship is in the future. And then it's just a matter of, are you going to give every coach who wins a championship a statue? It's a good problem to have.
It's a great problem to have. They should have one, gilded in gold for the fencing coach.
Right.
I mean,
that's right.
If we're just handing out trophies, and obviously the lacrosse coach would deserve one as well. And so I'm sure the the statue making company is going to be busy.
Correct. So Decaf, I'll clean it up a little bit. He says, not trying to be a jerk, but what did the softball coach win? They never even made it out of a regional and choked hosting the ACC tournament last season. Well, I mean, they were in the NCAA tournament every year for more than 2 decades when she was here. Like, there's still a lot of
all-time winningest coach at Notre Dame.
There's still a lot of coaches who would like to have the track record that Deanna Gump had. Now, to be fair, I mean, that and she knows it. She's well aware of it. You don't think that it drove her crazy that they weren't able to win some of those regionals, and they hosted a regional a few years back and they weren't able to win. Like, that obviously was the big knock. I was having this conversation because the Women's College World Series is going on right now, so the game started on TV yesterday. Jesse and I were talking about this yesterday. Softball is all about, do you have the elite pitcher or not? I mean, those are the teams that ultimately get to Oklahoma City, where the Women's World Series is. The elite pitcher is the one that gets you there. And Notre Dame has had some good pitchers to really good pitchers over the years, but they just never had that pitcher, the kind that could get them to the promised land. I mean, that's ultimately what that sport comes down to. Do you have the pitcher in the circle or not? It's what it's all about.
Yep.
Another super chat. Thank you very much. I can't. What does that say? I can't read all those letters when they're together.
It's Reliq.
Reliq. Okay.
Yep.
He says, would it be smart to make Buchner the holder also for fakes, given his athleticism and arm?
I mean, you don't put somebody as a holder because they're good at fakes, and very rarely is the holder going to get it and just start running with it. I mean, you're starting with your knee on the ground, first of all, which is a difficult position to be in if you're trying to run for a fake or anything like that. Look, he's got good hands. I think we've established that. And so that's all I want. I want somebody with good hands, with quick response time. And if he can throw the ball a little bit, that's great too. I mean, again, almost every college football program in the country has their punter as the holder. Some punters are more athletic than others. I'll just say that. So you don't need an athletic guy back there. You want a guy that can catch the ball and put it down. That's
back in my day, Vince, we had a backup quarterback who was also the punter. His name was Danny White with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if you remember that. And when Roger Staubach retired, Danny White, became the starting quarterback and took him to, 3 straight NFC championships. They lost them all, but he was also still the punter. I think that's the last time that's ever happened in the NFL. Like,
there you go.
And I believe he did some holding as well as the backup quarterback back then. And they're like, my guy Romo, you remember, like, the most infamous play of his career in that playoff game against Seattle. He began the season as the backup quarterback, but became the starting quarterback. But he also began the season as the holder. And even when he was the starting quarterback, he was still the holder, which is why, the whole botched hold and all that stuff against Seattle in that playoff game.
Sure.
He didn't quite make it into the end zone.
Yep. I wouldn't, I personally would not make somebody a holder based on their ability to run or
first thing is hands. Like, can he get it?
Absolutely.
Can he put it down?
Right.
And that's something that Marty Biaggi is going to have to judge if he decides he wants to look at that, because that will be something, as we've talked about, when these guys get back on campus this summer, that'll be something that they work on. If he wants to audition somebody else, I'm sure, he's identified some other guys over the course of the spring who are going to get the first crack at it. Maybe he'll give Tyler Buchner a shot, but yeah.
They don't scholarship holders. Somebody said that what a waste of a scholarship for a holder. They don't scholarship holders. It's somebody that's already on the team that becomes the holder. Maybe they have a scholarship. Maybe, like I said, it's usually the starting punter, but they don't. That's not a thing. There's no holder rankings out there for like recruiting and things like that. There's long snapper, punter, and kicker, and then everybody else learns how to hold, basically.
Right. Fill in the blank. It's blank that the NCAA is considering allowing schools to display corporate logos on their football fields this season.
Disappointing, but inevitable, I guess, is the best way to put it. Like, I'm not surprised. I'm still under the impression in my own brain, which is totally wrong, but I'm still under the impression that college sports is, supposed to be this pure thing. It's not. And so the fact that they're going to put corporate logos, they already had the NCAA logo on people's or on teams' fields, so that's a corporate entity. So I guess why not make some money on it? I don't know. I don't like it.
What color is the sky in your world?
I know. Look, I know I'm delusional when it comes to this kind of stuff. That's why I say it's inevitable. I just don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, look, with this revenue sharing thing and the fact that you don't have to pay, you don't have to spend up to the $20 million, but if you're not spending the money, then you're going to fall behind in terms of getting them here and retention and the whole thing. And it's another revenue source. And I've got to think that that's a part of why they're going this route, because it gives schools another revenue source to be able to do this. I'll say this though, like if I go scale of 1 to 10 that Notre Dame would ever do it, I would say 10 that they don't. Like I don't think Notre Dame would ever do, because this was a big part of the discussion when they built the video board. People were worried, that like they were going to have advertisements and all that stuff up on the video board. They're not doing that, right? If they're not doing it on the video board, I can't see them putting corporate logos down on their field.
Good point. No, that's a really good point, because that was kind of the middle ground, right? When people were all upset about them bringing in the video board, they're like, look, we're not going to advertise on it. And they haven't. They've stayed true to their word on that. So if they're not going to put it up there, which is super duper easy to do, then they're probably not going to put it on the field. So I guess the team that I follow isn't going to do it, so that's a good thing.
And I mean, right now they're talking about football fields. I mean, I assume they're going to have to allow it for any playing surface, right? Whether it's a basketball court or a lacrosse field, baseball, whatever.
Right.
I assume if you're going to open it up to a football field, that any playing surface is going to be. Now, Sharp asked what the next question was. They're still debating about doing it on uniforms. So if you're doing it on the field, do you buy or sell it on the uniforms? Like WNBA right now.
Oh my God.
And I know that there are other leagues that do it, but like they're a prominent one.
Like some of the WNBA uniforms, they don't even have the name of the team on the front.
They just have the sponsors
like that. I hate that. That's awful. That is terrible. The NFL right now does like the patches of like corporate sponsors and things like that. I hate it. I don't like it. It's a huge sell for me. If we're just going to talk about Notre Dame, for example, Notre Dame's uniform is an iconic, simple uniform. You throw like a Gurley Leap patch on there, which is a local car dealership for people who don't live around here. You throw like a Gurley Leap patch on, it's going to be horrible.
Well,
horrible.
But what's the difference between that and having an Under Armour logo or a Jumpman logo or a Nike or Adidas or what's the difference? Just because
the difference is they made the uniform.
Yeah, but it's a logo, right?
Yeah, but the car dealership didn't make the uniform.
They're both paying money though to be there.
I get it, but they're providing something and they put their logo on the thing that they're actually providing.
Right.
That's the difference to me. That's the difference to me.
But again, you've already got logos on the jerseys, and the reason the logo is there is because that company is spending the money. And so if you're talking about corporate, like they want to spend the money as well. I would say I would limit it to one, and they would have to determine, I'm sure they'll determine like what the size could be. It can't be bigger than X. I obviously would not want it to be prominent, like limit it to one of the shoulders or even the back of the helmet, something like that. Like I would not want it to be
awful
prominent on the front of the jersey kind of thing.
It'd be awful to put corporate sponsorship on a gold helmet. It'd be awful. Terrible. Awful.
Again, like I just based on Notre Dame's, sort of their track record, I would have a hard time seeing them go very far down this road.
I would too. I mean, you could make the case like it says Rydell on the back of a helmet, right? Because they make the helmet. Like, Is that corporate sponsorship? I guess. But they made the helmet. Same thing with the sponsorship on the jersey. They made the jersey. I don't know. I would hate to see. I don't even like, to be honest with you, I don't even like, what was it? Was it the COVID year that they had the big patch?
The ACC?
It wasn't the ACC. It was like a fight, or it was some term that the football team was using during that season. Do you remember what it was?
I don't.
Whatever it was, I didn't like it then either. And it was a Notre Dame thing. Like, it was a Notre Dame slogan that the team was using. And when they went to the bowl game, they had the bowl game logo. They had that other thing, rally. That's what it was. Yeah, it was rally. I didn't like that either. It was dumb. Like, I just get rid of the patches. The only patch that belongs on there is a C if you're a captain. That's it.
Decap says Under Armour wouldn't let him put anything on the jersey.
It won't be up to Under Armour. Sorry, like that. No, because there will be patches. If they allow this, there will be teams that have Under Armour uniforms that will absolutely have corporate sponsorships on there.
Obviously, you wouldn't be able to cover the Under Armour, but
100%, yeah. But
I don't think the uniform manufacturer is going to have any say in whether or not a school puts another logo.
Because I would go right back to the school if I was, let's say I'm Ball State or somebody like that, right? And I go back to them and be like, okay, well, if you're not going to let me make money on putting a patch on the jersey, then are you going to pony up that dough? Are you going to give me that money? Because we have operating expenses that we need to pay for, and they're willing to give us this money for a patch on the jersey. So if you don't want it, cool, but you better be paying us that money.
Yes. So your Chicago Bears, Vince, have been picked to be the team for HBO's Hard Knocks in training camp this season. They've said no to doing the show in the past, and they had to be told that they were going to be on it this year, basically. So what do you think about the Bears finally being on Hard Knocks for the first time this season?
I am intrigued because I think this is a very interesting offseason for the Bears, right? The only reason that I'm not overly excited about it is because I don't get HBO. And so I'm not going to be able to watch it. So
I'm sure somebody will have a log on so you can
I might have to call somebody. But if I do get it, I will watch it. I mean, I like those behind the scenes, regardless of whether that's the Bears or not. And if it's the Bears, that's obviously more intriguing to me. But I like those behind the scenes things. I really do.
I do too.
In a different life, like in my own mind, like in a different life, I would have loved to go into coaching. I didn't because I had a young family and I never, I don't want to move them around and all of those different things. You know what I mean? So it never was a realistic possibility for me. But like in my alternate universe, right? That I would have loved to go down that road. You know what I mean? And so that's why I love watching all that behind the scenes stuff.
You're hanging out with Rex Ryan, getting a snack and, doing all that.
I would have loved to be like a GM or a director of player personnel or something like that at some point. You know what I mean? Like that would have been an ideal job for me.
So the Bears were one of 10 teams that had never done the show, and Hard Knocks has been around since 2001.
Wow.
The Bears, the Broncos, and the Saints were the three teams who fit the criteria of the NFL could tell you you're going to do the show
right
this year. So the criteria was, to fit the criteria where the NFL can tell you don't have a new head coach, you haven't made the playoffs the previous 2 seasons, and you haven't been on Hard Knocks in the past 10 years. And I think it all lines up for the Bears perfectly. Look, you had the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, and you've got all this hope and promise. You've never been on the show. You're freaking market 3. I mean, the NFL wants the Bears to be 100%. Good. Yeah, that's right. So I think it's kind of exciting to kind of get to see some of this. Hopefully it's, they've changed the focus of I know you haven't watched it, but when the show started, and really for probably more than 10 years, they would obviously, spend some focus on the head coach and some of the more prominent players and stuff like that. And like last year, it was the Jets. And obviously, there was a lot of focus on Aaron Rodgers because he's never met a camera that he doesn't like. So, they focused on Aaron Rodgers quite a bit. But what they didn't do was focus on, they would always find a handful of bubble guys on the roster and follow them throughout. Right. Are they going to make the cut at the end and all that? The Jets didn't want them doing that. I do too. And that's the kind of stuff that my wife actually likes. She'll watch Hard Knocks with me, and she likes that kind of stuff. And then the season will start, and she's like, "Oh, is so and so still on the team or what?" Right. No, he got cut. He didn't make it.
Well, and you want to see what kind of life are those guys leading? You know what I mean? They're not the superstars that are making all the money. And you see these guys coming home to their, undecorated apartments and, things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of like that way of going about it.
Yeah. The Bears are the first team to be picked for Hard Knocks who had the number 1 overall pick in the draft since Baker Mayfield in 2018. He was the number 1 pick when the Browns did it that year. So what, 6 years?
Wow.
Since then?
Baker Mayfield was 6 years ago. Wow.
I know. What do you think is the best thing that can come of this for the Bears? What's the worst thing that could come of it?
So the question is for the Bears, not for Vince. So that's an important differentiation.
This is not Vince centric this time.
Well, this question. Yeah.
Right.
Because the best thing for Vince would be to watch would be what DK said here is they want to film the meltdown of Caleb. I think that would be hilarious. But it's not about me. The best thing that could happen is that Caleb is the leader that they envision him to be, and that he goes out there and does all the things that they want him to do and leads them to all the victories that they want him to lead him to, right? The worst thing that could happen is that he's a flop, is that it didn't work out. You know what I mean? That he's showing up late to practices, that he's bringing his entourage around, all of that could be a major problem for the Bears.
I mean, I think the best thing that can happen is Caleb Williams performs great, and the Bears coaching staff and everybody looks like they're fully competent, and people actually like some of these personalities that they're seeing that they've never got the chance to see before. The worst thing that can happen, I think, is just that, I still have questions about the coaching staff that the Bears have, Eberflus and the whole thing. And now, obviously, if Caleb Williams is looking like a train wreck in training camp, that's not going to help them by any means. But there is, they do control the narrative to some extent, in terms of what they show. So that'll be the interesting.
Did the Bears control the narrative?
Well, they have input, I don't know. Because, again, like Robert Saleh told them last year, the Jets head coach, that they didn't want him, like when they were making cuts, for example, because they would always, at the end of these shows, when cuts started being made, they would, they would get the call, bring your playbook in, and then they would sit down, with the head coach and or the general manager and have the conversation about why you're not making the team. The Jets wouldn't let them show any of that, for example.
Okay.
Just as an example of, so they do have at least some input, onto, as in terms of what can and can't be shown on the show.
Okay. That'll be interesting to see how much they show of Caleb Williams off the field.
Right.
That's what
I'm sure they're going to follow him at least in that first show.
You have to.
He's got to be the focus of the first show.
He's the number 1 pick. He's got to be the focus of every show.
Yeah.
Now you can have other subplots and different things, and I think that would all be intriguing. But at the end of the day, that's got to be the number 1 deal. I mean, they sold the farm, and they clearly did. Their offseason was clearly geared towards bringing him in as the quarterback and being the number 1 guy. I mean, so how's that going to work out? That's your number 1 story. How's that going to work?
Right. Exactly. And that's, I'm anxious to see it. I know that there's somebody in my house who's a Bears fan who's really excited to see it.
She is.
I'm not a Bears fan, but
I know you're not.
But that's
okay.
I'm curious. I'm with all the newness of the Bears and Caleb Williams specifically. I'm anxious to see the whole thing.
You can revel in it with us.
So there's a guy who lives in Kansas City area. He's got a collection of more than 250 full-size college football helmets. I saw he had a photo of them all out on, like, taking up his whole yard recently.
Crazy.
Would you want to have that many full-size helmets? 250 plus.
No. I tend to trip over the one helmet that's in our house, and that's my child's. Like, it's always in the most inconvenient place. Obviously when the season starts, it's at school, but until then, it's at our house. And I would definitely not have the room nor the inclination to have that many helmets in my house. That's ridiculous.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you would literally have to have at least, one good size room, if not multiple rooms,
probably
dedicated,
multiple.
Yeah. To housing these things.
You coached
quite a bit.
You coached high school football.
Yeah.
For even if it was a brief amount of time. You know how much space it takes to store helmets, right? And we certainly, on the team that you and I coached for, didn't have 250 of them.
That's right.
You know what I mean? We maybe had half of that, right? And it took up a whole room. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine having 250 helmets.
I would want, and especially, like, I looked up even on eBay, like the
mini ones,
like the gumball size minis.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, I was looking those up, and those things are pricey themselves. Like, I wouldn't mind having like a room full of those, because then I could put it on one wall, you couple shelves and,
right.
you do that. And what I actually thought about doing was seeing if I could get, if I could get like the more prominent college football teams, getting some of the minis and putting something up on the wall here behind me. And then when the season starts, like, put them in order of the top 25 as they're ranked week to week. And those things are pricey. Even, just the minis are pricey. So I can't even imagine what it would cost to have 250 full size.
I mean, if these are like legit, like the new helmets, right? I don't know if these are older or whatever, but like if you go out and you get just a Speed Flex helmet from Rydell, for example, and that's the most common helmet in 2024, right? You can get these ridiculous ones, obviously, that are like $800 or whatever, but like a Speed Flex helmet's $500.
Yeah.
$500. And that's without like NFL, logos,
official logos.
Yeah.
Now these are all college. These are all college.
Okay. But like those things are copyrighted. Like that it costs money to put that stuff on a helmet, right? So I can't even imagine how much money this guy has invested in this, collection of his. That's amazing.
DK says just get the ones out of the 25-cent gumball machine. Do they even have those machines anymore? Like when Jesse was a kid,
right?
There was a Walmart we used to go to, and we would always, they had one of those with, with the NFL helmets,
right?
Like the college helmets they never had, but the NFL, like it was always getting the NFL, and he had a whole bag.
Oh yeah.
Of those. And my daughter actually almost choked on one of the lids.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Started to go down her throat.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Those ones you got to like squeeze to like pop off.
Yes.
Like, yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly.
I have my mini helmet, my mini Notre Dame helmet hanging right there.
I see that.
And like, I like a good mini helmet. Like a good mini helmet is cool. Like I'm down with that. I would just not like somebody. Decaf says he's got all the mini helmets from the Shamrock series in his man cave. That I think is cool. I just think the full size is a little much.
Yeah. Full size, too much space, too much cost.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of nutty.
The mini. That's the way I would go.
You're going mini. I like these. Size. I like these like this size.
I've got one of those. I'm blocking it here. I've got
I see it back there
behind me someplace there. So yeah.
Right.
What's the biggest collection you have of anything?
So I'm not a huge collector. Some people would say I collect children. But when I was a child,
people would be correct.
I know you're not wrong. When I was a kid and we would go on like summer vacations and things like that, I would collect like a keychain from like every place that we would go. And I had like a giant ring and I would just put all the keychains on it. So I've got that in a box someplace and it's probably got like 50 to 75 keychains on it. So like that was, I guess, my thing when I was a kid. and then the one thing we did when we went on our honeymoon is we went on a cruise to like the different islands and stuff. So we got a Christmas ornament from each of the different islands like that we went to. And so we put them up every Christmas and reminisce, but not much of a collector. Like that's not really, I don't know. I feel like collecting is something you do with extra money, and that's not really a thing in my house.
Yeah.
So
Tyler says movies, like people still own DVDs. Like those things are going the way of the dinosaur.
That's so true.
Now. Like I used to have and I've still got some, but like right now, my problem is I don't have a DVD player that works that I can play them with.
I know, right?
Last time I tried to play one, it showed up in black and white and the sound was bad.
Oh,
it's like, what's going on here? It's like, this is not a 20-year-old VCR. This is a DVD player. It's supposed to be
Are you getting yourself a PS5 for the new NCAA game?
I am not. I'm not.
Okay. I was just curious. You never really struck me as a video game guy.
No. When Jesse and I talked about this fairly recently, you know, when he was a kid, he had the Nintendos. I can't even remember. Like, I think he had a PlayStation, whatever he had. But, you know, that was back. He would play Madden. He would play college basketball. We might have had, I think he had college football. He had Call of Duty and some of the other stuff. And so he had that probably up through middle school. But by the time he hit high school, and he was, you know, there's a lot more.
Oh, yeah. Sports and much more.
I'm not trying to humble brag here, but he was a good student.
Yeah.
And he was also playing 2 sports basically year round between football and, you know, baseball during the high school season. And then he played travel ball in the summer. It's just
no time.
He just kind of phased out of having time, you know, for all the video games by the time he got to high school. So
it's exactly what happened in my house. Like as soon as we kind of got to like the high school level, like, because, you know, kid used to be into like making his own, like putting together his own computers and then like playing computer games and stuff on it. He got to high school and he's playing 3 sports, and he, like Jesse, he's a very good student. I don't have time for that stuff anymore. Like that stuff kind of falls by the wayside, you know? Yep. So I totally understand where you're coming from on that. On the other hand, I'm absolutely getting myself a video game system because I want to play this damn game.
I'm surprised how into this game you are. I realize everyone's
excited,
crazy for it. But
look, from a video game standpoint,
are you financing this game system?
I am. Well, like as in like monthly payments,
like literally financing. Like where is the money coming? Like, are you taking out a personal loan?
They're not that expensive.
But you know,
I have the money.
I'm not going to go deep, but you know, I know how things work.
You do know how things work, and you know how they work in my house too.
Yes, you said it, not me.
No, I have already informed that this is something that I want to do. I got a giant eye roll, which was totally expected. And hey, it is what I don't buy stuff for myself.
But you got a nod, I assume. Like
hey, if you want to use your own money, you know, is that kind of a thing. And so I save up my personal money that I get as gifts, like for Christmas and Father's Day and birthday.
Because I mean, like I've been around for, hey, honey. So I'm at the store and get me in
trouble.
Yeah, me and Sean are here, and there's this thing. It's really pretty cool. It doesn't cost that much. No? Okay.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot. I mean, you're not wrong here at all. You're not wrong.
But and I know those cost less than one of these video game systems.
This is true. I never get anything for myself, and so I'm cashing in that chip at this point. So
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you only got so many hobbies at this point, right?
This is true. It's like this and sleeping.
Right.
What worked in my favor is that my 9-year-old really wants it for other games. That Perfect. Did not hurt
Perfect
my case.
See, I keep forgetting, like you've got kids of the appropriate age where video game systems still.
Yes. That did not hurt the case at all.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice work.
But when it comes to video games, though, I'm not like a first-person shooter guy or any of those kinds of things. Like, it's all sports games for me. I love sports games, specifically college sports games. There was one year, and I think they only did this once. They did a college baseball game for my PS2, And I love that game. They had, Frank X Stadium and Notre Dame and the whole, that was a fun game. I really enjoyed that game.
I think I vaguely remember that. Like you might have sent me like a screenshot or something of X Stadium from that game or something.
It was cool. It was cool. I may still have it someplace like in a box or whatever, but I love sports games. So this is right up my alley. This is right there. And it hasn't been around for 11 years. So
good times.
I'm in.
All right. When is that coming out? It's like not till
July right? 19th or something like that. I don't know. I'd have to look.
All right. I got to wrap up because Jesse popped back in and they're getting ready to hit the road to Cleveland. So I got to go. Right. Got to go say my goodbyes before they hit the road. I think they've been waiting for us to wrap it up.
I'm sure they have. I told my wife Fridays are the short shows.
Yeah, I know. Hour and a half later.
I know.
All right. Well, that's going to do it. Hit the like button before you leave if you would. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you Monday on IB Nation Sports Talk.
Always talking absolute.